YOLO, we're gonna wing it coming in here, but I feel like we're always winging it. And,
Yeah, it's called Raw and Uncut for a reason.
Raw and Uncut. So we're talking about all about leads. So literally everything about leads. We were like, should we bullet this? No, yes, no. So we didn't. So I was like, I'll jump in and just ramble a bunch of stuff because I ramble all the time. All about leads. What did it even mean? It was like full spectrum. So from like leads all the way up to where people don't know who you are, all the way down to them doing business with you and continue to do business with you. Like the full spectrum of leads within that. Like, how do you get them? What should you do? Like, how to handle it? Like, what are all the things? And the reason this even came up was because, like, we get leads, we get print leads for people, and they'll be like, "Hey, yeah, I emailed them one time, and they didn't buy from me," and it's like, yeah, I mean, how many? Like, when does that happen to you? Like, when has anyone like talked to you one time and you just like instantly were like buying it? Like a buildup. So I'm not talking trash on anyone here, but I am being like, ooh, we need to like talk about leads, like for real, like really talk about this.
Yeah.
So it was like, you've got people finally kind of see who you are, and they don't become a lead until you have their info. Mm-hmm. And you can get their info in a number of different ways under a number of different contexts. So it's like those contexts matter. And then once you get them in, based on the context you got them in, the follow-up matters. Right. So like, I think that's probably kind of where we're at. Like, what's the context of, and then what are you doing after you collect their info, right? Yes, we're right.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Okay. You have any words of wisdom here right in the beginning? Do you like what are your thoughts initially on like these leads, like, or like one channel? Like, where do you want to start?
I always team LinkedIn, and I think that's where we see a lot of this the most. Is you are maybe running an ad on LinkedIn, or I mean, you're just promoting content. But if we're talking about lead gen right here, you're running an ad on LinkedIn, and the most direct way of gathering lead info is like a quote form. So if you put a form directly in LinkedIn, you could say something about your low costs or a deal you're running. So people submit their info to get a quote from you. That's a really direct way to do it. But
yeah.
What?
No, yeah, I would say, okay, say a quote. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the quote is the context. Even if it was like LinkedIn, fine. LinkedIn's a channel, but I can get a quote. I can say, I'm going to buy you breakfast. I can say whatever I want to get their info. This thing you just said, you're like, get a quote.
Yes.
So like, there are people who are going to see that and be like, yes, I'll get a quote from you. Like, and then they get a quote from you. What you do after that, that's like every print company's dream. Someone just was like, give me a quote. That's,
right.
That's actually one
but thing. That's super rare for that to happen, at least if we're talking LinkedIn. Like,
name something, right? If you just said, hi, I print stuff, get a quote from me. Okay. Like that one ain't going to do so hot. You say 50, you say 90% off your first order, 100% off your first order, you're probably going to get a lot of quotes. 50% off first order, you're going to get a lot of quotes. 10% off, okay, to 20, you're kind of getting in the normal range of retailers and other printers. You're giving them an incentive to get the quote. Like, it's what you're doing, right? So that's a context. I guess we can focus on that. Do we talk about more context up front, or do we talk about one context and move on to a new context?
Kind of where I was going with it is like, that's a super direct way to capture lead info on LinkedIn, but I don't think there's as much success there. I think it's more offering the sharing of like a case study of success story that you've had, or more information about how you've successfully worked within specific industries. And I think we've seen a lot more success there with saying, hey, give us your info and we're going to give you this case study.
You're gloating. Yeah, you're gloating. You're gloating. And I'm in all cases, and we didn't even talk about this, so you're going to look at me and be like, I'm probably going to play devil's advocate on literally everything you say. So you could turn the tables on me. You could turn the tables on me. Bring it on. I know.
Bring it on.
You could turn the tables on me. So you're gloating I'd be like, why the heck would they actually even want to see a case study? They don't know who you are. Pretend this is again, context. I'll probably context in this moment. I'll use this because this is the most devilish advocate position I can think of. They have no clue who you are. You have an ad running and you're like, I'm a print company and I'm going to target an industry and I'm going to target this person who's in front of them. And I say, hi, I'm a print company and I'm so good at what I do. I made a case study on it. You should look at it. And to look at it, you have to give me your info. Someone's like, yes, please. Or they're like, okay. And they move on. What's drawing them into that? Or it's a contest, but I mean, someone who says yes, I think they're like, I feel like it's pretty motivated. If I go on the back end and someone
yeah, I mean, just like I would put them on the same, maybe a little steps down from like the same field as like a lead that comes in wanting a quote form. You have like super passive, which we can talk about next, because I think that's kind of where like the root of this is. But you have someone wanting a quote, they're super active, they're ready, they want something from you. This one would be a couple steps down because they're clearly interested enough to like read about you talking about how awesome you are. But it's still, I will clap back at you and say it's super relevant if you're talking about how you've done really good work and gotten results for an industry that they're working in. Like,
yeah. I know, I agree, and I think that in my head when I think about this lead, right? And I said it's all about leads. Context and situational pieces here are like, I feel like that is effective once they know who you are and are in some space of thinking about potentially buying or needing that, right? Like if you're targeting a company you're targeting an industry it is print, and these are the people who are going to buy it from you. Like, not everyone's in the buying mode, or they are buying, but they're buying from the person they bought from for 30 years. They don't care about you. Right. They just don't even care. So it's like there's always all these things you can do to get people in that situation. But if like the only way, in my opinion, with always the slivers of caveat, the only way anyone cares is if they already know who you are. So you remarketed to them. So like this ad is only going to people who've been on your website already. And so now they're like, oh yeah, I saw that company. Oh, they did do something nice. Okay, let me check them out because I did look at them. They already kind of know. Up front, I don't know, unless you say something really enticing to them. If you spoke to solving a problem, which is kind of what you're getting to on the passive side. If I have a case study that says I work with industry XYZ and your industry is dealing with this craziness right now, and we fix, it's like that being the case study tied to the outcome they need because of the problem they're trying to solve, that's a pretty enticing one. So that's something I could see not needing to be remarketed. Person, they don't already know who you are. But and the only reason I even focus on this right now, I'm not necessarily even talking about how to get them as a lead, even though I kind of am, but like it matters because of how they, like, when they submitted their information, the reason that they submitted the information is important on context and follow-up. So like if I had a remarketing campaign that just said, here's a result we got for somebody, we did a great job, and it was, even if it XYZ, the case study was also in industry XYZ, and you said we printed for them and we got them more business. If I don't know who you are, and that's the first time I've seen it, I'm less likely to fill that out. A smaller precision of people are going to do it. But if I've remarketed to you and I'm already familiar with you as a company, I have more faith in checking this out, considering print, because I was on your website. Why would I have been on your site? Something else got me there. I'm being remarketed, so now I download it. So if I'm a salesperson on the other side and I know that that's the campaign running, I know that I need to convince this person more. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to convince this person in a certain way. They are familiar with me. They saw I did a result. So that relationship, it has to be nurtured more. Whereas if I said, you've got I don't know, I'm making this up. We're having really bad storms and someone's really quick on a draw. We work with roofers who get a lot of storm damage jobs, and you put that out. Well, you got to be going quick. And the people that are going to fill it out, if you're targeting storm chasing roof companies, and that ad goes out, and a salesperson gets that ad, they know that all they need to do is close them as fast
Right.
as possible. Like, it's different relations, may not even care who you are, as long as you can get them
Mhm.
that result as fast as possible. If that's what you're saying to them, done, done,
Right.
done. Like, that's what you're talking to them about. So anyway, I'll stop rambling. But that's where my head was at when I was thinking through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I feel like if we go back to the original thing we started talking about was getting those leads. So if we take the passive lead capturing of you're speaking to, and this doesn't necessarily have to be LinkedIn. I just think it's easy. It's an easy working example of
And you're defining the passive thing here.
yeah, yeah, because then that leads into that more specific follow-up is you're saying to like we can use education as an industry. You're a print company and you're trying to talk to people in the higher ed space or private ed space and saying we get schools a increase in enrollment every year and here's how we do it. They give you your information. That's super, super passive. They're not looking for anything. They're just interested enough to see how you get that. So
Yeah.
back
So
to what you said at the beginning, yeah, they're passive. So like them not responding when you say, "Hi, we're a print company. You want to get a quote?" Like you're not meeting them where they're at, and the lack of responsiveness initially makes sense. So I think that's where the really valuable part of this conversation can come in is like how to nurture those leads that are coming in that place at that level of passiveness. Don't they're not in a place to buy. They're just interested enough. So how you talk to them, what you talk to them about, using the context of where they're coming from, that they're in higher education. They shouldn't get some like blanket sales email that you send to anyone. Like tailor it to them and it's not just gonna be a one and done thing. You're not gonna send them an email and they're gonna be like, "Yeah, I want to move all my print work over to you." They might not be they're not might not be actively searching you out. They might have just seen you for the first time. So, there's just so many considerations that need to go into it. And so I think that's kind of where a good the meat of this conversation can live is inside that
yeah.
part of it. We just had to build up to that, you know.
Yeah.
We went on a roller coaster to get to that point.
Well, it ain't. I mean, we're still rolling. We're still rolling. We're on one of those, where people are trying to set the world record on how many times you go on a roller coaster. That's what we're doing right now. Like infinite until you fall off of it. Okay, so passive. So passive. I'm just gonna like break this down. Then you just mentioned passive. A passive lead is someone who is not actively getting a quote from you, right? Like they are someone who was convinced to give you information under the sense or context of there not being any expectation from that person to you. So the lead who fills information out, that there's no expectation of them from you, the company, because you were just like, I'm going to give you this. I'm just giving you this because I know. And in this case, we're talking about something we know they're interested in, but private education or public education. The passive lead is someone who you will not expect to get a quote from you immediately because all that they wanted was to read a report. All that they wanted to was see how they can, in this case. So you're giving them an asset that educates them on something that is indirectly tied to potentially working with them in the future because you're talking about, hey, you want to increase enrollment. Now we're talking about print companies. So we're saying, well, how, if we talk about that, how do you increase enrollment as a print company? Where you to students that show them the world that they're going to live in, how promising their future is, whatever it is, how cool the campus is, the really nice swag you're going to get on day one, whatever the freaking thing is. But like you as a print company can make all those things and you're telling them that this is how you increase, how they can increase it. It's a part of the whole. You give them more. But the passive lead is someone who is not expected to say, and by the way, give me a quote on XYZ stuff right now. Passive is they're irrelevant, but they have not even signaled to you that they're ready to buy in any way at all. They want to solve a problem. And in the case of education, enrollment is what we're talking about. So so that makes sense. And then you also touched on something else, context to the sales side, what are you doing then? Not only is the fact that it was passive matter to them, but the industry, what you were pointing out was like, if I'm a salesperson on the other end of that lead, I know that I'm going to need to reach out to them to do what? To just make sure that they received it, to see if they had questions, to see if it was relevant. Like if I'm a sales guy, I'm so chaotic. Like I would call, hey man, I know you got that thing. Like the company makes this. Like I don't make those things. And I was looking at it, wondering, like, is this even real? Like, is this even right? Like, is this something that is this like if they read this, is this right? So I'd be like, I'm interested to know if like what was actually in the doc was good because I didn't make it. Jane made it. Sometimes I think they're a little off. You know what I'm saying? Like they just make stuff up. Is this real? I'm going to try to make a connection with that person. And that is like fully focusing on the fact that you know exactly what they received, you know what they were looking for, and you're querying them just to be like, give them the opportunity to have their soapbox to be like, no, this is a piece of crap. But regardless, you're like, it doesn't matter what you get as a salesperson from that. The good salespeople know they can use any of it. It'd be like, yeah, this thing actually was wrong. I'd be like, oh, I knew it. I knew that was wrong. Like, what? Like, okay, like, what's one thing you had in there? What's one thing you would put? Oh, I would probably say this. I like three things. Like, that was the second one. That was the second one on my list. I would have put that in there too. I'm telling them, like, you got me. I can't wait to go tell Joe he's an idiot. Like, I'm going to use that and I'm going to sell on that. So, like, the context matters, but something you pointed out was exactly right. Like, you see the generic stuff go through all the time. It's like a school wants to increase enrollment, and then they get an email from a salesperson that says, "Hi, if there's anything you need, just let me know."
Right.
Bruh.
That's not helpful. You have
No.
you have info from someone in that you would actually want to do business with,
Yeah.
and you're like wasting it with that kind
Yeah.
of outreach.
Yeah. Man, yeah, so that's like a sidebar because it's like, what do you say to someone like that? We get some leads for someone, they're like, no one's responding. But like, well, what are you saying? Like, here, I'll forward it to you. And it says that. And what do you say? Like, what do you say? It's like, we're like, yeah, that's never gonna work. Like, good luck. 1 out of 100, bro. Anyway, I don't know. So yeah, so we talk about passive, right? If passive is that, active is going to be what? Someone who is legitimately trying to get a quote from you. Like they want some work done. They're like, can you help me make a blank? Right? Like, I feel like there's, even in the active side, you've got degrees of activeness. So it's like, if someone says, I want 500 brochures, well, now I know, if I'm on the sales side, I know I need to get to them with specific questions and things that are like finishing and, well, all the normal stuff that you would need because you don't have all the quote info. So you got to get to that so you can estimate it and actually get a real quote. But then people who come in hot with all the detail, it's like, oh, I need this paperweight, this coating, I need this kind of thing, this, that. And like, they know what they're doing. So if I'm getting something like that and I'm a print salesperson, I'm going to be like, I have to treat them as the professional they're showing to be, where someone else who's more rudimentary in their approach, they may know less, more helpful to get them to the detail that I need. And I'm going to think about them differently. I just am. So like, even in the active side, I got to imagine like you're going to have to treat them differently. And who's your target audience? Like, to be honest, I think that I don't know. I can't even say this because we're not printers. We're not print companies, but like certain industries are less intelligent about the inner workings of print. And I think all the print companies we work with would agree. Like there are certain areas where they're just like, I don't know.
Right.
Like, imagine like a HVAC company. If you're not working with large regional groups that have a singular marketing director or someone who that person can know, right? Like a bunch of you got 5 guys, 10 guys, 20 guys, it doesn't matter. You don't have anyone dealing with marketing. Whoever you're dealing with doesn't know this stuff. So like, they're going to come at it like very not knowledgeable. Podcast with Adam Peake. I say things so on purpose sometimes. So like, he would be killing me on his grammar. He'd be like, no, No. Double
Yeah, you
negative. I'm
definitely
like,
get called out about that.
it's not a sailor's knot, you know? It's not. Where do we go with that? Where I ended on that, like passive, active.
Yeah.
Is there a middle? Is there like a medium? Like, is there a passive, active, or are there is one group I'll talk about. I don't think we have a name for it, but is there something in between there? Like someone's passive, they're getting info that is useful and helpful
Mhm.
to them, and they gave you their info for it, and it's all relevant. There's people who are active looking for quotes. Or
Mhm.
there's just people, people in your maybe your database who are visiting your website, opening your emails, but they're not asking for anything. I mean, that's like a middle. I don't know what to,
Yeah. Like, if
what.
you have, like, a newsletter. I mean, I would consider that a little bit more middle than passive
Say
because
that again.
they're
You cut it out. We'll cut out.
oh, like, if you have a newsletter and
A
they
newsletter. Yeah.
are, like, subscribing to that, like, there's a level of interest that someone that's just
So
downloading.
those like what? Again, we're brainstorming here. Like what? If you see they're in your database and they're opening all the emails and they're clicking all the emails, a newsletter, uh, it's like, do you just try to stay? Do you prioritize them? I think I would
Yeah.
recommend prioritizing those people. They're active, so I'm just like, hey, just checking
They're
in. Like,
interested enough in what you're saying
yeah,
to wanna be on your
and-
site and
yeah. Yeah, you're just hitting them up by just keeping the relationship going, not trying to overly sell them, or maybe you just have a normal, like, candid thing where you're like,
mhm.
any projects and it on you. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. I'll give you a quote. Like, just let me know or something. I can see
Yeah.
you focusing. Like, you could get real detailed if you're real go getter. You can like see what they're clicking on. Like, what if you send an email out with four things in it? One's
Mhm.
on promo. One's on some banner, some event stuff that's going on, or whatever. Right? Like, you could be
Yeah.
like, hey, they keep clicking on the promo stuff. I think I'm only gonna talk to them about promo, or
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a potentially lead, someone who hasn't bought from you. I mean, you could apply that to current customers too. But
Right.
um, well, the other one that I was thinking of was like, so we get the behaviorally qualified leads. So like we'll get people leads of contacts who they visited their site. So it's
Mhm.
like they know who you are, but we're collecting that information. They never submitted anything. So right, like we're using our pixel as the tech that captures contact information of people who are on your site, anonymous web visitors. So
Right.
some other places doing that, but like we're capturing anonymous web visitors, de-anonymizing them to some degree of those who we can accurately.
Mhm.
They're in your database. So like they were on your website, but they don't anything out. And that's the only interest they showed to our knowledge that they were on your site. So like if I put you on the spot, you, Alyssa, what are you calling that? Like, what are you doing there? If those go into your database, I'm the prince. What am I doing with those?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're less than passive because 'cause they've never, like,
What are they?
volunteered their contact info. What am I calling them?
Yeah. What if they're
Well,
less than passive? What are we calling them?
I don't know what to
Calling
call
them
them.
clouds? Like they haven't formed to rain yet. They're
Yeah,
like, what are we
that's
calling them?
I think that's a perfect description.
Evaporation.
What I'm telling a sales guy is that they might not need to categorize them, give them a name, but I'm telling them that they matter. Like, don't, like, write them off. Don't write those leads off because they're on your site. Like, that's such valuable information, and again, it's passive in the sense that they're not saying, "Hey, give me a quote for this project where I need this quantity on with these spec." Like, they're not giving that, but they're on your site for a reason. So, they're gonna take more love. They're gonna take more nurturing. So, just don't write them off. You I feel like that how we hear that a lot is you just between the passive leads and these website cloud haven't formed rain leads, a lot of companies don't wanna put effort into them, and we get that. Like, it's work. Like, you've got enough to do. Like, why are you gonna try and work these leads that aren't responsive or aren't even at the buying point yet, but they're interested enough in what you're saying or what you're offering. They came to your site. So it's just gonna take some work. It's gonna take some
Yeah.
time. And there's a lot of opportunities beyond a direct outreach for you to stay in front of them, put them in your email list that you send a newsletter out to, or like I just feel like there's a lot of ways that you can continue to stay in front of those leads, even if you don't continue the direct one-to-one on like a
Yeah.
routine basis.
That makes sense. I mean, I love it. Yeah, and that is why I was being nerdy with it, right? Like BQLs, behaviorally qualified leads. Like if you're talking about leads, and you talk to a marketing person, a lead person, database person. They're like, is it a sales qualified lead, a marketing qualified lead, a blah blah qualified, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
So we're like, okay, behaviorally qualified lead. You and I. This is why, because the behavior qualified them. They were on your freaking site. That behavior alone qualified them to being someone that you potentially want to talk to. Because why are they on your site? Why is anyone on your website? I mean,
Right.
they either searched in the search engines and found you. They saw an ad. They heard about you. They want to work for you. In that case, I mean, we didn't even talk about it. It's all about sales here. Maybe it's recruitment too. I mean, same with HR. Like maybe you're talking to these people. You don't know. But that's actually an important point is you don't know why they were on your site. You don't know where they came from. You don't know why. So you're going to need to figure that out over time. And to say buy from us, it's all a brute force play because you don't know. So if that's the advice I'm giving to myself on this, where it's like, if I get 1,000 people a month on my site and I'm able to pull in 90 of them, 100 of them, de-anonymizing them, I know they were on my site. I'm just going to still send it to, like if I have a newsletter, I'll send it out. They see me again. I send it out the next month. They see me again. All I'm doing is staying familiar. So for all the marketers out there who just, the marketers, right? The creative marketers, the brand marketers, not performance-based people. This is the goal for you because it's like awareness, just awareness. You got people on your site and now you're able to just continue to stay visible. It's when it comes time for that person to care, you're top of mind because you were doing something. Like that's our whole thing. So we're not saying hit them up. The problem is like if you don't have such high volume and leads coming in, you naturally want to close them all. But it's like those aren't just. It's not going to happen. It's going to take a minute to do that. But maybe that's the thing. You never know. One of them might want to get a quote right away. But if I have to play the numbers, if I have to play stats, I'm going to assume that the majority of those people are not trying to buy right away because if they were, they would have called me or submitted a form on my site to get a quote. So they're just window shopping. I didn't even think about this before it came on. That's the example I was giving. Like, it's like if you have a retail store, street window shop, and people are walking by and they stop and they look in, like in all those old movies, a kid at Christmas looking in like, oh, I want the bike. I want the guitar, whatever it is. You have no clue who that person is, but this, you now know, and they didn't come in. They might be broke. They might be, whatever, be ready, but one day they're going to be ready.
One day.
So then that made me think of something else. Run me over, like jump in and cut me off if you got something else.
Keep going.
Nothing? Keep going. Cold leads, cold outreach. We honestly, because we were like, again, our YOLO, would you bullet it? We didn't bring this up, and now I'm like, man, I would have put this on the bullet. Cold outreach. So like, I'm a print company, and I want to go target retailers, jewelry stores. I'm going to create a campaign, and also I'm using whatever. I go and use Zoom Info. I go LinkedIn. I go somewhere, and I can curate my list of jewelers. Those people don't care. They don't care until you say something that makes them care. That's very similar to the ads you were talking about. It's like, let me run ads to jewelers and the marketing directors of jewelry companies. And that's where it gets into like size. Like, again, that we didn't even talk about that context of size. If I'm talking to a marketing director versus an owner, we were talking about level of sophistication, but the owner wants sales and revenue now. The marketer wants a lot more than just that. So you're like desires too as a salesperson, but like what I was just talking about though is those cold leads. You're going to outreach to them. Again, it's the same thing. You're going to say stuff to them and you're delivering a context that's going to deliver a certain result. So if if you get a list of 1,000 jewelry stores and all you're doing is, or emailing them directly if you get email lists, or sending them out direct mail, and you say, buy from us, you're going to get the tiniest of response ever. Mm-hmm. If you say to them, I'm making this up, but I'm just saying you sell some volume of sales, you're looking to double that in the next year, or whatever, make a claim, something they're experiencing right now. Maybe the economy is shifting to where people are buying fewer pieces of jewelry. Or you can say, you can speak to why that is and how you help change that. Again, that's that passive thing you were talking about, just showing them how they can do it.
Yep.
But you speak directly to them. The problem is a lot of that cold stuff, they don't know who you are at all. And you've got to introduce yourself to them. And if all it is, think of every spam email you've ever gotten from anybody. They don't know who you are. You've never seen it. Delete, delete, delete. I don't want any of it. I don't want an email from someone. I don't believe all they're saying is,
buy from me.
I'm going to make your life. I'm going to make you $1 million. It's like, you're not. Like, I don't know anything about you. Like, you're not going to do that.
Right.
Or not even that. You buy from me. Is that what you were saying? Buy something from me. It's like, no.
Yeah.
What do you know? Like, what are you talking about? Like, so that's so annoying, so frustrating. Send them a teddy bear with a ring on it. I don't know. Send them a Beyonce thing, putting a ring on it. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a much better idea.
So context. So leads, what have we covered? There's the cold leads who've never heard anything about you. You're doing outreach. There's passive leads on people who are saying you should just educate them to build a relationship. There's the middle. So you've gotten them in some way. They were active or passive. They're in your database. They're showing activity, prioritize the active. We didn't talk about those. Are like not active anymore, but I guess you just forget them because if they're not even engaging our stuff, there's like a million reasons they might not be engaging in an email. But and then there's the active ones, and it all matters in how they got there, what they were asking for, who they are as the buyer, what industry they're in, to the things that they actually want, their outcomes, solving problems. They're not just trying to buy stuff; they're trying to solve a problem. Always remembering that. I would. This is probably a topic for another time, but I feel like every time we're at Print in general, the sales topics are always focused on like being more valuable than just taking an order. So I need 500 things printed with this finish. Like, you're taking an order. They're like, help them solve the problem. I personally, and this is why I say I think it's a different topic, a different show, is that's a fine line, because at what point do you not just take the order and do you try to upsell or give them a different solution? Because there's a lot of ego built into that on both sides. Like someone's like, I've got this great design, and it's just like us. Like I was saying, like someone sends an email that says, hi, if you need anything, we're here to help. Thanks. Like, that's the worst email ever. But I naturally want to go and be like, that's the worst email ever. Like, seriously, like that's where you like slap someone around. You're like, wake up. But like if someone comes to you with like an idea for a packaging and it's a piece of crap, like you've seen it fail a billion times, do you tell them? Or
yeah, I think we got to table that one. That's our next
one. Table that one, but yeah, like that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different start thinking about it. I don't know. Have we covered all about leads for this one? You think we're good on this one right now? I feel like we could go forever on all of it.
Yeah, I feel like this is where we need to wrap it up with a bow.
So what's the core takeaway here is that you legitimately have to just consider the consider the context in which they came through, and you have to tailor the approach to it. And that's that kind of speak. I always talk trash on like conference speak, because that's all you like. Segmentation and personalization. Do it. It's like, oh, okay. Like how? As a salesperson, you're a human being and you can do it. Like, consider
Right.
those things and actively work to match it and to see what's working and what's not, and just continue to do that. But you have to do it. You have to.
Yeah. I think you nailed it.
Any last words?
Nope.
Go get leads.
Get after it.
Get
Yeah.
after it.
Get
Yes.
after it.
That's what we're closing. Get after it. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Sign off
you.
here. Now we got to go. A bunch of work to go do.
Until next time.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye.